Hello, welcome to Storytime Read Along with me. The Incredible Peppa Pig Collection. 50 Peppa Storybooks. Every day we will read 2 Peppa Pig books. Which books shall we read today? Peppa Pig, Peppa's painting, and Peppa Pig, Pedro is late. Peppa's painting. Peppa and George are helping Daddy Pig paint a picture until some surprise visitors come and make a mess. Will their painting be ruined? Peppa's painting. Peppa and George are going to do some painting. They lay out Daddy Pig's old newspaper. Hooray! Let's start painting, says Peppa. Peppa grabs her paintbrush and dips it into the yellow paint. Then George puts his hands into the blue paint. Silly George, says Peppa. Big children do not put their hands in the paint. Splat, splat. George loves painting with his hands. He prints his paint-covered hands all over the paper. Peppa loves painting with her hands too. Hee hee, Peppa giggles. She makes yellow patterns on her paper. Daddy Pig is holding half a potato. Watch this, he says. He dips it in paint and stamps it on to some paper. Who knows what I'm painting? Asks Daddy Pig. It's a flower, cries Peppa. Daddy Pig finds his old painting things to show Peppa and George. Why are you wearing that silly hat? Asks Peppa. It's my beret. It helps me paint, says Daddy Pig. I'm going to paint the cherry tree. Peppa and George watch Daddy Pig painting the cherry tree. What lovely green leaves, says Daddy Pig. Daddy Pig mixes green and red paint to make brown for the tree trunk and the branches. Can I paint the cherries? Asks Peppa excitedly. Yes, Peppa, says Daddy Pig. Dip your finger in the paint and dot it onto the tree. Peppa paints 3 red cherries. Well done, Peppa, says Daddy Pig. Now it is George's turn. What a great painter you are, George, says Daddy Pig. The painting is finished. Hooray, says Peppa. All of a sudden, some ducks run over and splash into Daddy Pig's paint. Shoo! Naughty ducks, shouts Peppa. Oh dear, the ducks have made tracks all over the garden and used up all the paint. Quack, quack, quack. Mummy Pig comes to see what all the noise is about. The ducks used up our paint, says Peppa. But Mummy Pig spots something. The tracks in the garden make the grass all colourful. Hooray! Everyone cheers. Daddy Pig, your painting is perfect, says Mummy Pig. Ho ho, I am an expert at painting, says Daddy Pig. And so are the ducks, says Peppa. Peppa Pig. Pedro is late. Peppa and her playgroup friends are going on a trip to the museum, but someone is late. Will Pedro make it to the museum on time? Pedro is late. Peppa and her playgroup friends are going on a trip to the museum. Are we ready, children? Asks Madame Gazelle. Where is Pedro? I bet he is still in his pyjamas, says Susie Sheep. He's always late, says Peppa. Pedro Pony is fast asleep in bed. Pedro likes sleeping. Pedro, wake up, says Mummy Pony. You're going to be late for the playgroup trip. Pedro yawns. Oh, and gets out of bed. Okay, Mummy, he says. When Pedro and Mummy Pony arrive at playgroup, no one is there. They jump back into their car and drive towards the museum. Stop the bus, cries Mummy Pony. Pedro is here. Miss Rabbit stops the bus and Pedro jumps on board. By the time they get to the museum, it is quite late. Mr. Rabbit is locking the museum's door when the bus arrives. Hello, Mr. Rabbit, says Madame Gazelle. We would like to see the museum, please. I was just about to close, says Mr. Rabbit, but I suppose I can give you a quick tour. Hooray! Everyone cheers. First, Mr. Rabbit shows the children a room full of clothes that belonged to kings and queens. Pedro likes to look at things for a long time. This is interesting, he says, stopping to look at a shiny crown. The class follow Mr. Rabbit through the museum. Here are all the giant dinosaur skeletons, says Mr. Rabbit. They are all very old and very interesting. The children all gasp as they look around. No one notices that Pedro is getting left behind. The last room on the tour is the space room. This room is dedicated to space, rockets and all that sort of thing, says Mr. Rabbit. Mr. Rabbit needs to lock up the museum, so he shows everybody to the exit. But Pedro is still inside the museum. Madame Gazelle goes to find him. Madame Gazelle eventually finds Pedro, but when they get outside, the school bus has gone without them. Oh dear, says Mr. Rabbit. Have you missed the bus? Mr. Rabbit is about to get into his car to go home. Mr. Rabbit, I am a teacher and I need your car, says Madame Gazelle. Jump in, Pedro. Madame Gazelle takes Mr. Rabbit's car. Don't worry, Pedro, says Madame Gazelle. I know a shortcut. Hello, ducks, says Pedro. Quack, quack, quack. Soon they are back at playgroup. No one is here, says Madame Gazelle. Oh no, says Pedro. Am I late again? Just then, the school bus turns up. No, Pedro, says Madame Gazelle. I think for once you are early. Pedro is early, cheers Peppa, jumping off the bus. Yes, says Pedro, and you're late, slow coaches. Pedro decides he likes being early. Everyone likes being early. Hee hee, ha ha, hee hee, ha ha. Tomorrow we will be reading Peppa Pig, Pedro's Cough, and Peppa Pig, Peppa's Pen Pal. See you tomorrow, friends. Bye.